No, it's not. If I may break into the profound silence that has fallen over this room as the intellectual streams begin, I would like to introduce Hal Robbins, who will be doing the evening's announcements, and then we'll get started in due course. Give Hal a round of applause for coming up here so bravely, so wonderfully. He'll be back. I'm done now.
You got something in your pants?
Ferret legging, maybe? Hear ye, welcome to Sacred Grounds, with Dan Brady as the current host of this, the longest running open mic in the known and unknown universe, serving up good food and fine poetry since 1972. Please support this reading by enjoying the food and drink served here. Let's have a big hand for Teddy and Fiona. Poetry of all kinds, ladies and gents, is welcome, and we ask you, please, to respect the mic. Keep conversations to a whisper. Put phones on mute or vibrate, and don't distract the speaker or pass in front of him or her. Wow. Also, keep to the time limit, usually 5 minutes, but that can change. Remember, we have two shows, the 7-ish and the 8:30-ish. For this reason, I ask for generosity. Going short helps with our tradition of getting everyone on the mic. If you want to be in the proverbial loop, we have an opt-in email list and a Facebook group. We stream the video, and this is handy in 5 ways. You can view in from home. Family or friends can see you live or later on. If you want to hear so-and-so's poem again, why, you can. Want to do a self-critique? If you really want to, and it is a way to put out the word, yours, mine, or ours. Remember the ongoing theme. Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. The evening's theme is felt.
Thank you.
Also, next week's feature will be
Richard Sanderell, who's in the house as we speak.
all right. Richard Sanderell. Now, as to the first show, the keynote will be.
This would be David Erdreich as the keynote.
All right. While our feature is
John Mellinger.
John Mellinger,
Who's in the house?
who will give the Queen's wave, and there he is. As to the second show, the last word will be
Rob.
The mini feature is
Tommy
Avicola Mecca, and we have fabulous.
Well, let me
And
introduce you.
here they are. Just get a load of.
Well, we
feet.
have so many tonight. We have Giving Voice, Laborfest Writers Anthology 2005-2017. Scales to Scalpels, Doctors Who Work with Music as part of the healing process. Okay. David Applebaum, new Mr. Expert, Noy Fowles? Noy Fowles. It's a Water Rights, a poem by David Applebaum. No, David. Sonnets for an analyst was Schmidt.
Is that Applebaum or Apfelbaum?
Appelbaum.
Applebaum.
And of course, the great philosophers, the lives and ideas of history's greatest thinkers.
That made it through from last week.
Yes, it did.
And we all know they all come from the east, not the west.
Garage Elegies by Stephen Kessler. 4, count them, tickets to the big book sale featuring this is from October 31st to November 4th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's 4 of them, thanks to Mr. Edward McHugh.
On Halloween, eh?
Well, it goes until Halloween.
Oh.
Or it starts on Halloween. And then there's more here. There is, I did that one.
Poetry review.
Poetry Review, the absolute most recent issue, and inside is a newsletter for those people who want to send things to somebody or have someone find out what quality work they have.
And
Woman and Intimate Geography by Natalie Angier, right? Would that be Angier?
All right.
Winner of the Pulitzer Prize, so she's a Pulitzer Prize winner writer at that, just so you want to know. And then if those don't float your boat, we have the four traditional prizes of being the co-pilot, being the mini feature, the keynote, mini feature, and the last word, as well as choosing the theme for the upcoming week.
Be advised, although we record the evening, if an audience member wishes to do so, please ask permission. Wishes not to be recorded, perhaps that means? We'll assume you've done so should we notice recordings being made. Well, these days, I mean, everybody's got a camera. I don't know what you can do about it. It's just the way things are. So is that it, or do you want me to read the other side?
No, that's fine.
All
You're
right,
perfect and wonderful. Give a round of applause. With that, we have David Erd, right? The keynote of the evening. He'll be back on the open mic because they do that. Keynotes do, not just David.
So I'll read a few from African American wisdom, just a couple. Angela Davis. If they come for me in the morning, they will come for you at night. Malcolm X. Power recognizes only power, and all of them who realize this have made gains. Negro blood is sure powerful because just one drop of black blood makes a colored man. One drop, you are a Negro. Black is powerful.
Section. I don't know where it is. I'll find it.
It's lost.
Why don't you announce the first read? It's not in there.
Oh, no.
So, first up to the mic, a big hand for Owen Dunkel.
I don't know where it is. I'll make one up. Oh, I know where it might be.
Oh, no.
No, we'll figure it out.
Oh, no. Do you see who's coming in the door? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Bill Mercer.
Yes.
Bill Mercer's in the house.
I can smell it too.
Hey, Bill.
Oh, here it is.
Everybody buckle up.
David? David E? Yeah, I found it. Are you gonna read? Thank you, we'll put you on.
Okay.
I'm not gonna ask, I'm just demand here.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
I'm deaf.
What?
Mars and Scorpio. Dark gray clouds, fair Paris dragged to the streets of Troy, the head of Agamemnon impaled on a pole. Brave Achilles sulks in his tent, sword and buckler hanging from the shadows of a dark sun, as a beautiful Jewish woman saunters into the library as a death-like old crone. The proud give their prosthetic apparati to a Trojan horse, but succeed in getting shafted like a nude flagpole sitter. Radical politics are from the same steel cake and are making the same scene. Death and mass confusion follow fair Prometheus to his island of aloneness and aloofness, talking like Auden in his cell of himself. To a wooden item. A box within a box, a play within a play. Your mind a set of wooden sticks that go by 2 by 2. Hip hop, hip hop. I think, a thought to his munching, lunching, and crunching. It was bad form to commit a solecism. This poem, a mad solecism hiding in the dark mummy weak that cannot see it was, say it was bad form. Bad form searching for its karma. To a land of Oz. Black sand evolving to an arrow blue sky, piercing Brobdingnagians disguised as dwarfs signal each other to race like boy and girl towards the elegant, commanding, always consistent surf, corroding, whispering, and frolicking towards the fascination of our cathedral of plenitude. Black sand reaching, reacting with deep longing fingers to forgive another's sleight of hand love affair with nothing. Not even the air we wave our arms about in the jaunty ablutions, like hair catharsis of nothingness. Nothingness we forget to remember with all the love and joy we gracefully refuse to turn our backs on. Terpsichore, a living nature of will, slipping and gambling towards a provocative Old Testament. As I forget the windy soul of the villanelle, I forget buzzing and banging out of loose shutters. Lord Winter. Winter, that drunk old lord, comes in November to fill its cup. Leaves fall before its sword. A bleak denouement, a fat old gourd, pebbles tender eyes look up to winter, that drunk old lord. A salty tail brandishes its reward. Plants drink their fall sup. Leaves fall before its sword. We see the unison of a quiet accord, a frozen syrup of winter, that drunk old lord. Like a scent of summer that roared its sunsets and devilish puff, leaves fall before its sword. Evening passes us a fretful chord of hearts that stand the seasons up to winter, that drunk old lord. Leaves fall before its sword.
Oh, good.
After reading Joyce, I slogged out of the library elevator, 5th floor, like a reborn Hessian. Prayers, monastic, mimetic admonition, advice to go back to mass and confusion after the Holy Church turned its vibrator into the arches of a mosque, the facing the steeples stretched for all. Chanting chanteuses, prayer wheel, and rugged apotheosis, demanding I pray back to him, my God.
Thank you for going.
Thank you very much.
Going up, another round. And since Robert McNamara can't be here, go right to Buford, but someone I would much rather hear than Mr. Robert. Give him a round as he comes up.
Listening to him and my
The smog of war.
well, you know,
SNAUG.
he was at least a Democrat, which I mentioned in this piece in a minute. The first one I have is by the world's greatest poet ever, Mr. Langston Hughes. So he gets a second poem tonight. This is called Motto. I play it cool and dig all jive. That's the reason I stay alive. My motto as I live and learn is to dig and be dug in return.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't deserve to be in the same bill with Langston Hughes, I wrote one about Trump. Trump, the trumpeter, brings up the tough issues, blows his horn to the regret of all thinking people of the world, or at least the U.S., and as he considers the U.S. unfortunately, his oyster. Let me open it up and let the gushy insides out, he brings up. The Democrats, excuse me, a fairly conservative group themselves, look like left-wing radicals by comparison. He blows a sad tune with his fake hair and is harping about fake news, meaning the kind that doesn't like him.
Thank you. Rick Peter, who you know, he's next. Then we have Antoinette, then Stephanie, Sharon, Hal, Yasmin, David coming back, Meets, and Richard before our feature, just so they know. Give him a nice round. Come on, come on. It's like, you know, guys come over, squeezing us all over the head, you know.
The word felt shows up. My current violence fantasy is to hire the Nairobi trio and have them beat upon the head of Senator McConnell with great felt mallets. We're not a mob, Mitch. We're not a mob, Mitch.
Yeah.
Turn again. Rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat. Maybe a quintet would work better with sledgehammers. Add an angry woman and an archival poet to the mix. Rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat. Got two violin poems here. Plays itself. The violin without a bow brings pizzicato from a skilled hand. The violin in a blue case plays itself. All hips and scrolls, smell of rosin and wood, echoes draping the soundpost. Pick it up at your own risk. Frail ghosts and demonic intrusions sing your entry. And another violin poem, Felt. I reached for the violin under the red felt cover. Will I remember anything? Will I recognize the sound that touches my ear?
And now my co-host Antoinette Payne, give her a nice round as she comes up. Always good.
Soaring angels, fast flood, solid blue skies, white bulbous chemtrails follow four blackbirds in formation. North Beach celebrates Columbus Day, injustice to indigenous then and now. Italian girls shake back long dark hair, sassy sweat. Cool people, grandparents, children, lovers, friends gather here for sunny holiday car show. We wait for mass shooter to arrive. St. Stephen's Basilica, doors wide open. He is Italian, eating cannoli. Green. Salvation of the world depends on him. Greeks and Italians, God's gift.
That's right.
Pit stop on Stanyon where people wait in line to shoot up or pee. Attendant guard dances on sidewalk, large brown arms swaying to feet in rhythm. It's his shift. Homeless woman, hunched over carry-all walker, gets in line in the shade, then back to her place in the park.
Yeah.
Hate, love's proxy, rainbows end, realized excitement, belonging, passion, togetherness in guns. Alt-right steps to separation, while community interbeing with no defense brings unity, empathy, twin hearts. To love hate impossible, to love haters viable. Love thy enemy taken full course, defenselessness is strength, his gentle voice calling, offering only love's message. Home is far away, we cannot return alone.
Yeah. Holy. And then we have the wonderful Stephanie Manning. Give her a nice round as she comes
Yay.
up. Like I said, we got Sharon and Hal and Yasmin coming up after that. Good, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, and
Hello.
this is more my size crowd. This size crowd. So I'm going to read from Evan Pritchard's book Redhead Band. Evan Pritchard is a Micmac Indian that's a tribe from Maine, and he lives in New York. And he has this great book called Bird Medicine. Bird Medicine. It's a wonderful book about Indian mysticism around the visitation of birds. Anyway, here's one called Vortexia. Perpetually perplexed, I stand alone before a sort of vortex near my home. It floats there in the air without a whisper, like a boat that's anchored to a cloud of unknowing. And no one knows it's there, but sometimes makes its presence known with a scent of roses, a scent that puzzles me and figures out the combinations of my heart and opens to my soul with non-verbal messages of mystery and miracles that something deep within me understands and trusts unquestioning. And then here's a little series of short poems.
That wasn't your time. I
Okay,
goofed up on
thanks.
the things.
Thanks, Dan.
Sorry.
She hasn't even started.
Thanks,
I know, but
Okay.
I don't want her to think.
And so he calls these haikus, but they're really just short poems anyway. And this one's called Writing. Writing's what we do when we don't know what to say. Think through the pencil. Nature. Wind blows through my hair, catches the door to my heart, flinging it open. Seeing past clouds. Help me to see what I'm here to do. Give me a sign of hope, wider than the evening sky. That one. And then there's one called Rhythm. Rhythm is the beating heart of poetry. Deaf are those who never hear that drum, save for me a seat in rhythm heaven. That is where the soul transforms. And here's one called Birch Bark. Writing poems on birch bark in a house that's burning down to nubs and will be ash, or writing poems on sugar in the rain with brilliant words that melt away and die. This would be my dream if dreamed awake.
Check. All right. Sharon. Kish. Oh.
Everybody's up early today.
I know. People are hard. People are.
They're on that meeting.
Yeah, come on.
Hello.
Why, hello.
Hello.
And how are you?
Okay. This is called Sit, and it's from I Could Chew on This. Book of dog poems. It says, you want me to sit? You'd like for me to sit. You need for me to sit. You're asking me to sit. You're saying louder for me to sit. You're yelling for me to sit. You're begging for me to sit. You're pleading for me to sit. You say the word sit like I always have a clue as to what you're talking about. I love your enthusiasm, so I jump up and down for both of us. Okay, and the other one, the topic was
Felt.
felt.
Yes.
I picked it, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. So there was a situation in the neighborhood where there was something going in on the corner. And the doorbell rang, and it was one of my grandmother's friends, and she said, do you know what's going in on the corner? My grandma says, no. She said, a pool hall. A pool hall. A pool hall. Sit down, I'll make us some tea. So she starts to make the tea, and the doorbell rings again. And the next lady comes in. Do you know what's going in on the corner? A pool hall. Yes, what are we gonna do? Rings again, 3 ladies come together. It's a pool hall. Out comes the teapot, out comes the coffee pot, out comes all the cakes, the rum cake from Christmas. It's a pool hall. So next we know, the phone rings. Hello? Sharon Kate? Yes, ma'am. Is Mom there? Yes, it's Aunt Margie. Okay. Oh, Margie, yes, we do have. Yes, we have one. Well, if you want to bring yours over, that's fine. Okay, fine. Hangs up the phone. Everything goes out, forks, coffee. Up the stairs we hear it. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Doorbell rings. It's Aunt Marge and Uncle Buster behind with the typewriter. She comes in, hello ladies, sits down, gets her typewriter together, pulls out her onion skin paper, pulls out her carbon paper, lines up her typewriter. Oh, just a minute. She goes over to the buffet, fixes a little sandwich, says, Sharon, get my purse. I get her purse. She reaches in, she pulls out her little bottle, puts her 2 tablets of saccharin in her coffee, and then she starts to type. Meanwhile, one of the other ladies wants to know, do we have a steno pad? Oh yeah, we have a steno pad. I have to go get it. So I go get it, and they are hot. There's going to be no pool hall in this neighborhood. Do you understand? And I'm looking. Okay. My grandfather walks in, he goes to the back. Hello, ladies, and he keeps going to the back porch to sit on the glider. Ben and Mary from across the street, the store, come in. They take their aprons off. Mary sits with the ladies. Ben goes to the back. Next thing we know, here comes another one. She's got a hat on, and she's not a hat on and a hot on under the collar. They want the Reverend, who has real estate in the neighborhood, to come. They want to know what's going on. And my grandmother calls. Andy, she says, okay, I know who it is. And she finds out who it is, and she knows the mother. May I speak to your son? Well, he's not here right now. Why here? He's going to do a business deal here. Oh yeah, dear. Well, I know you don't feel well. I'll tell you what. Me and the girls will come over and see you next week. Meanwhile, they go home. They've been writing letters. They've got signatures. And as the night goes on, and the next day goes, and there's more phone calls. The next night, someone taps on my grandmother's bedroom window. Okay, it's one of the women. My grandmother gets up and goes out. Goes around the back, down the basement, comes out, big bucket, like a paint bucket. So the paint bucket, they go outside, and then the rest of the women, because I'm taking out the window, and they paint the windows black. Come back in. He's screaming and yelling and calling the police. Okay. The police come, they don't know who did it. Everybody's very quiet in the neighborhood. The next thing we know, a week or two later, the place is really jumping. And the women are back out there again. And they're painting the window black. They paint the window black, and they go. And he calls the police. That's a logical thing. It's a vandal. Well, it seems as though once the police got in there, and we're watching out the window, the police are coming. The Black Mariah, the police wagon, is there. All the guys are going out. He's been running a numbers racket in the back. And he calls the police, and they come. So evidently, the police are watching them, and they probably saw my grandmother and her girlfriends painting the windows black.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hal Robbins, would you kindly come forward, please? And we have Yasmin, David, myself, then Richard before our teacher. The Honorable Hal Robbins. And our mini teacher has arrived.
To our dish tonight, when pressure touches. When pressure touches smooth piano key, brings the felt hammer to the hidden string, its soft stroke frees the waiting tone to sing. Alone, or with a chord in harmony. A song ascending like a cloud will float, the strike of impact cloaked, the voice rings clear. In music without clamor to the ear, softness releases strength and sounds the note.
Is that yours? Is that you?
Oh,
That
good.
is beautiful.
Should I do something
Yes,
else?
yes, you should.
I'll do In the Beginning by Dylan Thomas. In the beginning was the three-pointed star, a smile of light across the empty face, a bow of bone against the routing air, the substance forked that marrowed the first sun, and burning ciphers on the round of heaven and hell mixed as they spun. In the beginning was the pale signature, three-syllabled and starry as the smile. And after came the imprint on the waters, stamp of the minted face upon the moon, the blood that touched the cross tree and the grail, the first cloud, and left a sign. In the beginning was the mounting fire that set alight the weathers from a spark, a three-eyed, red-eyed spark, blunt as a flower. Life rose and spouted in the rolling seas, burst from the roots, pumped from the earth and rock, the secret oils that drive the grass. In the beginning, the word that from the solid bases of the light abstracted all the letters of the void, and from the cloudy bases of the breath the word flowed up, translating to the heart first characters of birth and death. In the beginning was the secret brain. The brain was celled and soldered in the thought before the pitch was forking to a sun, before the veins were shaking in their sieve, bloodshot and scattered to the winds of light, the ribbed original of love. Thank you.
The attribution. Stephanie has it here.
Dan's got the list.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's me next, yeah.
Yasmin is now. Thank you, Yasmin, she knew. Sorry about that, I had to get that other guy. Peter, is this your first time here?
I've been with him a few times.
But have you been on the mic before?
Soon I would like to. You got some poetry maybe next time.
Okay, just want to know if this is your first time. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this is for all the women that have felt the abuse.
There you go, baby.
There you go.
I'm one.
At 6 the next morning, she was awakened at Terry's house by a knock on the door. Her friend Terry, with whom she stayed after Merrick was taken away by the police, warned Umri against unbolting the door should Merrick arrive on the doorstep the next morning. She saw Merrick through the window, unbolted the door, leaving the safety catch on. Through the crack in the door, she faced his vermilion eyes. An expression of calm had settled on his face. He spoke to her quietly, as if the previous night had been obliterated from his mind. Haven't got my keys on me. Give me the keys, baby, so I can get a shower and change. She shook her head. Don't be silly, Umri. I ain't gonna hurt you. His voice reassured. I don't believe you, she said. He sighed. She noticed how tired he was. His voice strained for control. Someday, Umri, someday, you will realize that it is not me you need to fear. An expression of sadness like a wave swept over the fatigue which showed in his eyes. I tried to protect you, baby, even from yourself, from you. You need protection. He stepped back. I ain't gonna hurt you no more, Umri. Just give me the keys so I can get washed up. He pushed his fingertips through the crack. She drew back. In the past, she would have chided him had he not pressed his hands into hers. There had been a time when they had both sat at the back of the bus. She said to him that day, Someday, neighbor, when you become the mayor of Newark, when you become a king, my king, and you make political speeches and they put you in the jail, I'll come to you each day and squeeze my fingers through the grail and net which separates us. I'll be there. She had said that to him 3 years ago, a millennium ago. Stop dreaming, Omri. You're always dreaming. No end to your dreams. He had replied then, but the pressure of his fingers had tightened on hers. Besides, I wouldn't be a king. Ain't no room for that. I'd be a Malcolm. He would have taught them. Will you always be so violent? She had asked over and over again about Gandhi. Now he faced her through the crack in the door. You believed in violence, you always did, but I didn't think your violence would be directed against me. The words caught her in the throat. Baby, his voice was harvest song. It moved her. She unbolted the door. She unlocked it. He came inside. She moved back. Don't move away from me. You know me better than anyone else. You are my wife, and I've told you more than I've told anyone. You know there's no violence in me. Merrick, you've been hitting me and hitting me. Don't you remember? And you come to me now and say there's no violence in me? Have you forgotten last night? All the nights? Her words were loud. She spoke fast. You tell me I live in a dream world, and you don't even know what you did last night. Leave me alone. Leave me. He took her face in his palms. She jerked. No, Merrick, I cannot forget last night. It will take time. She handed him the keys. He took them and said, go on home, Omri. I won't be home all day. And when I come home, I won't bother you. Won't bother you no more.
And now David E. When I around as he comes up here. Thank you so much, Harry.
Thank you. Oh, didn't hit the ground.
Well done. A well-caught
Didn't
mic.
hit the ground.
David Erdreich at the mic.
Hold this up for me.
Sure.
Just hold it right there. That's it. That's good. Thank you. Don't move.
No.
Thank you so much.
Spoonful. Well, it might be a spoonful of coffee. It could be a spoonful of tea. But one little spoon of your precious love is good enough for me. Spoonful, 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 spoonful. It could full of water to save you from the desert sand. It could be a broken heart in need of a gentle hand. Don't you know it's that spoon, that spoon, that spoonful, spoon, that spoon, that spoonful. Well, it might be a pit pat of butter. It might be a soupçon of gris-gris, gilded splinters. Put all your heart in a ladle of love. It's still just a spoonful to me. We get high with a spoonful, gonna fly above that spoonful, dive into that spoonful, I feel all right with that. Come on, microphone. I feel all right with that. Okay.
All right.
Show's over. Get on with the living work. Today I feel the weight. Yeah, I have no choice but to wait.
Yep.
The money burdens double, triple, in part through my own carelessness, in part just because they do. I have only my back to depend on, and that has only so many lifts left, and then no more. That is as nothing compared to the dead weight of departed loved ones. Wife, brother-in-law, musicians, Jerry Gonzalez. By the score. While alive, the search for a conscious correct path never ceases. Earth spin, galactic twist, the endless delta and separating out of pebbles from the shore. If stone could speak, then it would laugh at trees that live less than 1,000 years. Trees, in turn, would wave us off as a mere aberration, a stiff breeze, a mote, feigning motive while in motion. Funny how up and down, wistful, Depeche Mode disappears as soon as my grandson laughs at a joke.
Oh, that's me. Oh, it's me. It's you.
Right.
I got 6.
How am I out there in TV Mac, ladies and gentlemen? Just so you know, I'm all for the separation of church and hate. I love that. I didn't make it up though. All right, so I'm going to do 2 poems. Actually, one is a poem of mine, and one is a song that I changed the words to. Oh, see? You know, Jesus, Lord in heaven, save my soul, because no one else would. All right. I sing. I admit it, simply enough. I sometimes whistle too. It's a bit odd. I'll admit that for sure. In this world of plugged-in, interconnected disconnection, I am a rare bird. Once I was strolling downtown when I noticed how intent everyone was. All around me, they strode quickly along, staring at screens, fingering figures, and oddly, I was moved to whistle an old tune. I loved it. I knew the words, but I couldn't bring myself to sing. I feared I'd be embarrassed, but I couldn't say why. After all, who would hear? It seemed that singing as one walks in a crowd is too interpersonal a thing, but whistling, well, maybe not so much. Even then, it was almost crazy odd. Yet there I was, whistling along, the only live performer in the midst of thousands on a bustling downtown business district sidewalk, a musical moat among a workaday sidewalk scene. While everywhere I glanced, the plugged-in, interconnected, dazed of eyes, deaf of ear, and distracted of gaze were intent upon vibrations no one else was aware of. No sharing, no glances, no caring, no nods. I could but watch as I moved along through them. And so I was free to whistle away, singing along to the song in my mind, of course. I reflected on my resistance to singing, as well as the satisfaction of whistling, even as the throng, with its many, many widely varied people on the strangely silent sidewalk, each with their rigid face, determined and attentive to something else from somewhere else, each with those far away eyes. None of them could hear me. And in that odd kind of public privacy, I could whistle on my merry way, which I did, as much as I pleased, though I dared not sing. And now for something completely different. We know there's the name Kavanaugh, his residence in Kavanaugh. So what went through my mind was a friend of mine was talking about him, and I called him the celebrated Mr. K, which of course brought a Beatles song to mind, which I quickly rewrote, and I will present to you this evening. Ahem. Now I'm going to try to sing it sort of. Don't think I'm going to sing here. Oh, there's a few words here that vocabulary. Celibate, that's in here. Schmaltz, David, what is schmaltz?
Chicken fat.
And what does it mean when it's not chicken fat? It's some kind of term.
It's just kind of kitsch.
Kitsch, stuff like that. So schmaltz. Remonstrate? Mashugana. Remonstrate? How?
Remonstrate?
Yes. Remonstrate? Yeah, warn. And let's see, and Paul, P-A-L-L, meaning a large, dissatisfaction, unhappiness, forewarning, foreboding, like that.
Should have made some money.
Should have made money. Okay, here we go. The celibate man, Mr. K, put on his robe this Saturday without fanfare. His wife and children stood right there as an old fat judge read through the text without a care. Over rights and laws and people's blood he lied and hid his boozing rages with care. In this way Mr. K will challenge the world. The GOP did dance and sing as K prevaricated in the ring. The show was great. As Mrs. K and T assure the public this production will be second to none. And of course, all we saw was nothing but schmaltz. The FBI played out their tricks so Mr. T could tweet abuse without a sound. And Mr. K did remonstrate with tears and anger, demonstrate he's on solid ground. Having been some years in preparation, a horrid time is guaranteed to Paul. Well, tonight, Mrs. K will be taking his ball. So there you go, just so you know. I love the man, he's endlessly fascinating.
She should have made some money.
Should have. All right, now who? Oh, David, I think you're next. No, not David. Richard is next. Richard, come on forward, please. Give the Sanderell a wonderful round of applause. Between the proverbial ballots. Buford.
All three? Or,
I may only do two, because the one's long. I'm doing this at Dan's request. I was going to do it next week, but I want to do some new stuff next week. And the one he's requested is what really started me out here, because when I read it, he gave me a feature after that. So we'll see if the piece still holds up. All right, it's called Under the Flag. This was the flag that flew over the genocide of Aboriginals in places like Sand Creek, Wounded Knee, where soldiers murdered unarmed men, women, children, were awarded congressional medals of honor for doing so. This was the flag that flew over slaveries where strange fruit hung from trees, where slave laborers helped build the empire. This was the flag that flew over Vietnam in places like My Lai, Vietnam, a place bombed with napalm, white phosphorus clusters, and poisoned with Agent Orange. A war based on lies from setting up a phony South Vietnamese government of the Gulf of Tonkin. This was the flag that flew over Cambodia doing the same as in Vietnam. Massive bombings, planting of landmines that keeps on giving to this day, blowing away lives and limbs. This was the flag that flew over Washington, called Columbia, where the overinflated General Douglas MacArthur turned his guns and fired at veterans protesting their rights as veterans. This was and is the flag that has flown over countries
overthrown in places like Haiti, Honduras, Iran, Chile, Iraq, just to name a few. This is the flag that flies over a nation that believes men manifest destiny. What is mine is yours, and what is yours is mine. The Aboriginals know this to be true. This is the flag that flies over the empire where lands, rivers, lakes, or air are poisoned, entering byways into organisms, wreaking havoc and chaos. Where politicians constantly try to pass laws against the destruction of said flag, while they allow the continued destruction of the desecration of the actual thing the flag is supposed to represent. This is the flag that flies over a people it represents who seem to be confused as to why the world doesn't love them. This is the flag that flies over a government that is #1 in incarceration, where there are more laws than ever that can land you in jail so you can rot mentally. And in the #1 in arms dealer in the world, making sure we support the forever wars. After all, if we don't do it, who will? This is the flag that flies over the theft of Aboriginal lands and resources, not just in the 18th, 19th, or 20th century, but welcome to the new millennium. This is the flag that flies over gun violence, where most citizens are upset when it's the other getting killed, raped. Who cares? This is the flag I will not salute, nor are there any that deserve such action. As Harold Pinter so eloquently wrote, all the dead air is alive with the smell of America's God. This is the flag. This is the flag. This is the flag. Love your God. Fuck your neighbor. Perpetrate your lies as flies leave your mouth. Let's enter pissing contest, but only when all play. We lift legs higher, pisses to the apex, wins. As if there are anything to win, prove, put down, or play. But maybe telling us a little bit, but not too much, is true. Baby, your war machines are in town. Love is in the air. Love is your killing machines, your gods of war. Proud penises waving in the woodland position as flags wave in your God is your God of war. And war is our game. Thank you. And David Erdreich.
And Richard Sanderell.
And Mr. Sanderell.
Sanderell.
And, all right.
We have come to that moment, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to introduce the teacher for the evening. Mr. Melander is back there, still meditating upon his muse, and he will soon be up here demonstrating the skill with words which few can match. He's here tonight as our feature. He deals with poetical forms, rhymes, intricacies of the word and meter. He covers the bases, the grounds, the world, the universe, philosophy, metaphysics. He has a long professional career as an intellectual. Holidays, publications, honors. He's a wonderful voice, and we have him here tonight before our very eyes. Give him a wonderful welcome, Mr. Jack Miller.
I just want to make sure I got this set up. Watch out for the wires. There you go. I just want to make sure that this is perfect for you. All right, is this good?
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. All right.
First of all, I have a sort of a non-lyrical political rant.
Oh, just get really close.
It's called Democracy. Don't you love living in a democracy? Really brings out the jingle red, white, and blue bandwagon booster in us, huh? We can tell this is a democracy because the people's will is what we get. The American people want the U.S. to be the world's biggest arms dealer. The American people want pig gunsels to eavesdrop, monitor, surveil everybody's like some privatized prison population. The American people have always wanted our entrepreneurial presence worldwide to be backing cynical despots against their own people in Cuba, Iran, El Salvador, Nicaragua, the Philippines, etc. The American people desire that the profits of our deregulated monopolies take precedence over the well-being of the American or any people, and of countless rapidly disappearing species of our fellow Earthlings. And the American people, unlike every other country on the planet, want shoved under the rug irrefutable evidence that runaway technology, efficiency at any cost, which makes constant mockery of all innate pensions, gifts, or predilections of wage slave American people, is destroying our personal share in the bedroom of the world. And when computers or robotics outsource or or eliminate everybody's gainful employment. We like to blame it on eeny, meeny, miny, mo, the Latinos, don't we? The American people sure don't want our tax money to go to irrelevancies like medical care, humanities, art. We want our increasing taxes to bail out corrupt banks and lighten the revenue burden of the filthy rich. These things are what the American people need, and we do have democracy, so the people's will must prevail as represented by our totally trustworthy ethical representatives. Here's something the surveillors need to realize. An even greater patriot than he who says, "My country, right or wrong," is one who screams, "Not my country, wrong." This did not used to be, but eons of leaders' malfeasance goes neglected by demonstrators racked to the third degree and overlooked by an incessant streaming horde of undebriefed veterans from constant foreign wars, trumped up over lies like save slant drilling Kuwait, grab imaginary yellow cake, or get vengeance on the Taliban to whom we'd made so many broken promises they had to hit us on 9/11 with the obvious help of our homegrown controlled demolitions. Such horrors have warped the native courage of the American people into a glowering anarchic inaction, a mass neurosis. But our outrage so far seems readily distracted by the advent of some new techno-gizmo nuisance, or deluded by media sold out to propagandists. Sorry about the let's see. Mineral. A small boy sits upon the drive, his curiosity alive. He brings his hammer down upon a stone he'd gotten from the lawn. From 2 rocks now a cry does flash. He wonders whether he'd been rash. The mineral has cast its hex. The claws recoil, he underchecks. A sweaty kid on summer's day evolves through many. A mother drops a serving spoon when she looks down from where she stood to see her son's scalp drenched with blood. A poet sits upon a stair, descending to an asphalt street. His mind's eye sees the quarry where it's gravel, stone. The poet's hat, the tires are. This is called a rehash. My first grade teacher said to do your best in all your classes it would you behoove, so when from time to time we give a test, you'll always know how quickly you improve. The subjects you most love you'll dazzle at. If reading, math, or science you have shown to be your greatest gift, then you'll know that will be the kind of work you'll do when grown. For spelling words now, take out a clean new sheet, she told us with her canny eyes agleam. If all get A's by Friday, but none cheat, the whole class will be treated to ice cream. Back then, who'd guess success is competition? Most work mere techno-wage slave exploitation. At endless hours of desk-bound inanition, and all gifts fair for greed's mere despoilation. When grown, the boy who's mastered all the ways of spelling, written essays that were best, could not find college but through Army's maze, beginning with another kind of test, designed to ascertain his aptitude. They know what literary gifts are worth, so taught him typing, though he come unglued the orders that post men all over earth. Before computers come along to dump white-collar drudges on the street en masse, the work an XGI clerk found to lump transform him to the least sway back an ass. Most honored line in all the field of greed was medicine. Each prefix, suffix, root in Dorland's dictionary he had need to write, help heal, though he'd been taught to shoot. I spent too many nights protesting war, neath sovereign crimson clouds of tear gas that to wait for basement clinic days galore beneath flickering hum, too often called in sick. Before voice recognition programs came along in hospitals, the typists slaved, or keyboards hunched their necks and minds to lame with grief. No droning doctor's pills e'er saved them from, but many only masked like tranks or psychotropics, painkillers and such. The profits mostly went to doctors' banks, not workers' spas we never earned enough. Where sunlight, heat, and fresh air is hardly found, I steeped in words of trauma and disease, in basement dank of medical compound did gripe and grouse. My bosses much displeased to hear me tell co-workers that a strike is something we in medical milieus, technicians, nurses, others, often seem to like than other kinds of workers and should choose. The fired flunky needs to find work quick. Some half-time job along with GI Bill to cover college costs should do the trick. A car's too dear, but buses climb each hill. What price? 10 desks, 3 typewriters, all used, their operators' wages much reduced from what hospitals paid, plus office rent. Amused, I thought, so cheap this startup, while what cut of profits fill the owner's fat account. But I was his as well and could, till 2 semesters passed, afford for no amount of his abuse to quit and find job new. Each weekday, 6 hours spent in college classes, plus 3 more bent or library corrals, I'd follow dummy down with typist glasses, neath 4-hour desk job soporific spells. The worker on my right 6 months before had quit the hospital whence I'd been canned. She wore her winter coat on their dank floor, but still the cold was more than she could stand. My spirit sank to hear that, as before, I typed St. Mark's tapes. But thoughts of school would always make them sore, where I'd read verses after work's half day. St. Mark's soon laid their whole pool off. Each girl, sans unemployment benefits, was told to type the outsourced work for us. Referral was made to cheap transcribers west. How cold. It's called to a TI, training instructor, Air Force. Oh, comradely training instructor, who makes man a killing machine, ere another loose bed you've untucked, or derided one more recruit green, let me throw us a drunk until night, then we'll strap on some skates in the moon, head down this wet hill. Don't take fright now, nor cry for your mama too soon, but let's have us some dangerous fun, while risking nobody but us. With your job, then, perhaps you'll be done, and art need not fret so nor fuss. This is called reflection. Does he who dwells behind the glass wherein I look suspect what he will find if he should wink? The kook he sees must right then wink my other eye. Who'd think? Supposing I should trace with my right index finger diacetyl loops in space. His southpaw circles linger with counterclockwise grace, quite complimentary, and yet contrarian. Sincerest flattery with artful variant. In portrait to my left hangs she beside our mirror, by whom my heart was reft, since which I've been joy's fearer. Let mirrored me glance right, he would more than likely see some nymph whom he rebounded to, since losing not 1 week to rue his joy, his flame not fleeting all. This is called a heart blue, a line. I could inquire whether if I asked you out to movie, say, you would tell me no. Then, if you didn't want to go, you'd say, yes, that's what you'd answer if I asked you out, which I, therefore, be certain not to do. This way, you would avoid the guilt of snubbing such a sterling blackguard as myself, and I escape despair of one rejected by so hot a little honey as you are. No risk seduction course with lines like these. But, should you answer no, you'd not deny me, I'd have to wonder what I might do then. I might complain you too familiar are. Your acquiescence fast made me your friend, and as such, I'd have to warn you against galoots like me who aren't always brave, indomitably strong, infallibly sagacious, as one worthy of your charms would have to be. Although those same allures perforce reduce every man to lust and horny hankering. But since despair and guilt are dead, heartbreak won't stand a chance. I'd go ahead and ask you out. This is grumbling flirtation. Too many things are fine with you, my dear. The greed of frightened men runs things round here, enforced by steroid brutes of craven cowardice. They're businessmen and peacekeepers to you, miss. O tall bacchant to inspire men's lust. But I am short and bitter, old and dull. Your earthly charms, I am dust to dust. The gods who made you were so kind to my eyes, but the kind is no kind on it. Here's some other flirts. One, the towers fall, the world goes bust, blood's ever though the lesser lust. Let's see. This thing, I don't know. Let's see. Okay. If nature could, if nature could, I'm sure that she would gusset all girls up with tresses brightest russet. Your hair enchants the mind's eye, plus it longs to this thing. Let's see. Plus it makes fingers long for you to let them muscle. Eyes of blue, hair magenta, she's the girl who pours your coffee. If not now, would you know when to ask how soon she's getting offy? When you and blase languor chance to warm one with a purple glance, there isn't much that one can do to keep from wanting to make love to you. Wow. This, this thing's given up. How about I got a few a few Halloween poems.
Well done. Here.
It's called Seduction. Scrambling through the tangled skeins of night, a wild heart explodes upon a fabled region. Naive stray abandons hapless daughter, stumbles headlong toward red watchfires. Gray wolf bitch, too young to quite have littered, panting most salaciously before the human touted gods or hobos' cold encampment. Caught, but slavering lewdly, hot with more than canine lust for Rafe, the goat or dogged gull. First he wildly kicks at her, then suddenly throws himself upon the trap that gnaws her foot. Slow and shy, she licks his face, then limping bolts. Wiping laughing, sweating lips, he feels his eyebrows thicken, doesn't realize werewolves' kisses can be cruel as bites. It's called a bog. In a temperate southern region where the river Zaris flows, sluggish, languid born, where the deadly nightshade rosamond, gnarled oaken balsams, gauntly brooding clay-like trees, decadent and ever dying of some pestilent disease, huddles there a squattish temple, crouching in a miry bog, a moss-covered devil's relic, bleakly gleaming through the fog. Serpentine its spires rise, slithering through the laden night, dully glow their window eyes with foreboding crimson light as deep within the hulking bulk the corridors descend, the dim, dank passages the hill ride and twist and bend. And up their ancient dripping walls flows dread narcotic lotus sleep, from crumbling incense burners, the green-black pearls creep. There's another Halloween poem. I'm the ghost of an old jack-o'-lantern from interesting times long ago, dematerialized now above the city street where way back then trooped poor party-colored protesters, black, brown, white, picketing, chanting, crying for civil rights, farm union strikes, Asian wars end. I fade above the noisy grime where voices dim into evening air. Night falls and my sorry grin melts away. I'm tomorrow's young jack-o'-lantern, congealing over the same city street where, despite affirmative action long ago, poor black kids are marginalized in ghetto schools, where poor brown people are furtively glancing around toward armed uniforms that may suddenly demand papers. Are trying to forget the bombastic rhetoric of a demagogue who'd stem the pulse of art and humanity, and who sent his filth down the stream of water, wind, and time. I'm an old jack-o'-lantern clicking my tongue to the rhythm of marching feet.
See if it's back on.
Yeah,
Technical difficulties.
these things, well, I got a couple of computer brothers and I haven't been too kind to them, so these things are jinx. Let's see. On a Christmas card, rate that sweet nativity of exes, whom jealousy's God's son we rate, knew neither girl gods nor sexes. For merciful forgiveness, though, compassionating empathy, he was no slouch, and so in all our pantheons he'll be with those love gods we venerate with maybe readier devotion. Mad votaries do take a notion. Shut me up on a timer. This is called On a Card for Double Nuptials. Pariahs and Ishmaels arise and wipe the blindness from our eyes. Love's a chance, but time's a felon. Put ice cream on that watermelon. Choose and live together one to savor with the joys of fun. To relish maybe finding more. Tell one whose two are three, no, four. Delighting in variety, delight must veil in secrecy. That secret door's fourfold menage, two couples duplex seem mirage. For jealousy's their dead that feeds within his head an earwig of illicit lusting. Desire risking, friendship trusting. Oh, wives and husbands, whoso bop as dance this four-way spousal swap, fate wedded to a higher power, pariahs, Ishmaels, your hour. Overheard on Bart, a guy into his cell. Ah, Jim, it's for the sake of the gestalt. They need to hone their two-girl team technique. The change of guys would much their bliss exalt. Together we've had each, so why then freak? We four know how your kiss affects my Heather, how wild your Jane gets giving us both hers. Our next step's just, you do them both together. So be a pal, don't pine among the furs. One more?
Yeah.
Okay, one more.
Yeah.
Remodeled. The large duplex at Market and Third was long shared by the Joneses and Smiths. Then they left. To where they left no word. Sounds like one of those strange urban myths. Yet a janitor, when they'd moved on, told me there across the street on my lawn that they'd kept the place clean, then said, but between bedrooms the doorway had been cut.
We're going to take about a 5-minute break, maybe a little more. I need a little bit of help because I'm going to be switching things around up here, so if someone would be kind enough to say, I'll help you out, Dan. I need 2 people maybe. That would be perfect. So, and this thing will be still running, but I'm going to turn around to face the wall, so that way you don't have to worry about your smiling face being captured. Your dentist saying, see, I told you you shouldn't.
I didn't do it. Cut me off of here.
You're going to take these two tables and switch them because this one has a wobble, but this one doesn't. And for a long time I've been noticing that. I think I just switched these two tables. Now I'm going to see if I can put up a new banner there. So let me just I'm gonna put this stuff on this chair. And then I'll lift this up carefully with this. We'll just trade them bar pebbles. See, that one, you know, has always been wobbly, and I figure if we put this the camera on a stable table, then you know, it makes sense, doesn't it? So you know.
I've noticed the wobbliness.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed it when I've, you know, done that, and I thought, I'm going to do something about it one of these days, and I realized, you know, I could just change the tables. As they say in France. Change the damn tables, Dan. Yeah, that's good. Around the world in 50 minutes. There we go.
It's like Dan, when you finish, can you look for the number? You can find it. Fire suite number. You can find it.
I have it at home, yeah. I don't have it with me, but I know it.
Will you send it to me or something?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If you send me an email, we can work out that number and figure out your date and
I want to call
everything.
as soon as possible. I gotta let her know.
Yeah.
She still is there, right, in the Clarion musical?
Yeah, she still does that. In fact, that's why she's not here as often.
No, I know, but I can't seem to reach her there. So
Oh yeah, I've never been able to get her there.
you've never been able to reach her there?
No, it's always like, you know, they leave the message and.
Because she says how you've almost reached me.
Oh, she always says that. That's her message.
Yeah. I'm gonna try
Hey, Ben, Dan, what you gonna do?
Tape replacing this
I know. Up and down. Yeah, it's in
We're going to try to put this up, make sure it looks nice, theoretically. To your side. Now, if you hold it up, yeah, that'd be good. Because I have normal thumbs. Actually, no, this one, I'll get in the middle one. Oh, okay. Yeah, the thumbtacks are right there. And this wall is right. How you doing? They were in
So you have to get and hook up.
There we go. See, now we have the This one could go in the center, right above the, maybe right above the V, between the V and the L, something like that.
Maybe pull it a little bit taller.
Taller, as opposed to, wait a minute, hold on a second. So you go up a little. Oh, yeah, it's a little almost probably. That's all right.
I go, you know, I get, I go like Wednesdays, today I have a straw hat, so it's down.
Isn't that the same one that you had up before?
Oh, this is different.
Oh.
Yeah.
They changed the company that does the streaming and storing.
Oh, I got you, okay.
So we had to.
Same message, different delivery.
Yeah, different, yeah. We're gonna start in a couple of minutes, just so you know. Britt, you pulled something off of the.
Okay, got it. Somebody's
Leave? Yeah. I'm passing the other way.
You've been doing a great job, Dad, I tell you that.
Thank you. You know, it looks crooked.
Nobody noticed it but you.
Well, you know,
Oh,
the thing is crooked. See, I'm looking like this.
Yeah.
So let me just, that's a shame.
Remember a guy named Maybe I can help you.
Yeah, I wish I had a little screwdriver. Maybe Jim Orange juice, you know.
Daddy might have a tool of some kind.
Oh, yeah?
The chance are redone.
Maybe ask him, see if he has.
Well, same with me, I figured about
See like that.
late April, I figured that.
Posting,
Look, a little lower. So you want to line this line up here, right?
Yeah, see, but that, you know, this thing seems like it goes like that.
Yeah, but you know, you want to pull it down a little bit more, don't you?
Look at the top.
Yeah,
So we'll go about like. It's not my fault. But this is good. I mean, the fact is the information was there, so.
There's only so much perfection in this.
Yeah.
it's just bad.
At least last night.
What's his face? It's been like, not DW,
Best basketball players ever played. The only player I know who played with
but he invited me to a poetry reading once.
I think those were the two guys.
There were 23 people.
That was way back.
I was the 23rd. By the time I got up, there were 2 people left. Everybody ran and left. And just like, I got to me and I said, never mind. I'm like HD Hall. Never mind.
It was perfect for me, Dad.
Actually, a great reader, but he made it shit.
Yeah, I feel like when he got HIV, I was living in LA with like they had this big shrine there, basically where all sports car show. I wrote on the shrine. It was his best friend. Still, yeah, well, you know,
The other relatives, I don't know.
at the time, you know, people were still dying of AIDS. But part of it might have been because he was such a magnificent vessel. It used to be, when I was in LA, they had this commercial. This was district where it's not too long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we carry. So they about how the women flock around. And I'm sure that was true. That was probably like
Well, the trend is their head, your body is just really cold. Pouring off his
That's a great way to live. Thank you for the answer on the second one. I was like a commercial, so just leaving me alone. Leave it off. Obviously,
And then they asked me, they missed the first half, and then they said,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start this second half. Give us a round of applause out there. Thank you. My mother thanks you. My brother thanks you. My second cousin's best friend, second grade teachers, third grade, second cousin's uncle's brother's grandmother. Thanks you.
was that Art Carney?
No, you would think that, but anyway. So let me see who is the first? Isn't it Rob? Isn't it Rob? Rob the
Piper.
clincher, closer, super duper duper opening the second half. Give him a round of applause. This is Rob, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Rob. We appreciate everything you have done, will do, can do, should do, ought to do, have done. And I'll stop now.
All right. I'm going to do two pieces very similar, one of which I'm pretty sure is going to be enjoyed. The other one I'm going to do it what open mics are ostensibly for, to do material that's never been done, and frankly I don't know whether it's going to work, but let me hit you this one first. This is a little comedy. This is called Build It, They Won't Come. CBC Newsflash, March 12th, 2036. Tycoon Rufus J. Deuce has announced his candidacy for Prime Minister of Canada will run as an independent. The cornerstone of Deuce's platform will be anti-immigration. In the past decade, due to rising temperatures and land depletion from global warming, over 100 million Americans have illegally crossed the Canadian border seeking asylum. The following excerpt is from Deuce's announcement speech. Rufus Deuce hereby calls for a complete and total shutdown of Americans entering Canada until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. They keep coming and coming. Jersey City has become Miami Beach, and Miami Beach has become Atlantis. California's gone, and the Latin American Federation bought what was left of Texas for 3 pesos. And they keep coming. To that end, I will build a great wall. Nobody builds better walls than me. Just ask my children. And I will build them very inexpensively. I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I'll have Americans pay for that wall. When America sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with them. They're sending guns, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. Well, maybe 1 or 2 good ones, but how many people are even left in America? 1 million convicts, 10 reality TV stars, and a plastic surgeon? We don't want them. Our country is in serious trouble. We don't have victories anymore. We used to have victories. When was the last time anybody saw us beating, let's say, Mexico in a trade deal? I beat Mexicans all the time. All the time. Thank you. And this one is satire, and but it is possibly satire that is so obscure that nobody's going to get it. So if you do get it, control yourself. Here we go. This is to the smartest audience in San Francisco. Here you go. This is called Serial Mutilator. Los Angeles, August 28th, 2018. A local man has been arrested for a series of mutilation assaults in a reign of terror that stretches back more than 3 decades. Dean Grinney of Bel Air faces multiple life sentences if convicted. 505 victims are known thus far, with more expected to be found. In addition to the mutilations, at least one person may be dead, although Grinney apparently made every effort to keep his victims alive, as he wanted them to have to look in the mirror every day for the rest of their lives. Each assault was accompanied by robbery. Grinney was able to steal huge amounts of cash, usually thousands of dollars. Before cutting his victims, he rendered them unconscious, presumably to have time to empty their wallets and sometimes bank accounts before making his getaway. Apparently, were so taken by his flatteries and persuasive charm that he never had to use force to get them on his cutting table. Once they were asleep, he would carve hunks of flesh from all over their bodies, most frequently the face, and occasionally even grafted chunks of flesh from one part of the body onto another. He was known to many as Dr. Grin, and most of his victims believed Grinney was some sort of legitimate doctor. It is assumed that he had at least a year or two of medical school at some unaccredited institution. After the assaults, the victims returned to their lives so ashamed that they almost never reported what had happened. Getting them to come forward remains the major hurdle facing law enforcement's case. Grinney was apparently so secure in his victim's silence that he flaunted his ill-gotten gains with a mansion, private jet, and money spent freely among the social elite. He has been linked romantically with starlets such as Jessica Simpson, Cher, and teeny others, none of whom have responded to interview requests. This arrest is the culmination of a decades-long hunt by the LAPD. Detective Don Joe Candlemacher has been the lead investigator for 17 years, spearheading a search that extended across the nation, but always returned to LA. Bail has been set at $20 million. There are already rumors of copycat mutilators in New York, Paris, and Nashville. Anybody?
Brett Kavanaugh?
No.
Harry Underwood.
No, it was a stab at plastic surgeons.
Oh, stab.
A standard plastic.
Some cutting remarks were in that.
A slice of life, as it were.
As it were. All right. And now, Tim Russell.
Purcell. Purcell, like the
Purcell. Oh, I saw there was an R. Sorry. Tim Purcell, ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause. His name fact is first time on the cheated like the first time because he is beautiful.
So I was here 2 years ago, and I read something about people who don't listen, and I remembered that because I was going to read it tonight. I'm like, I think I did that. And then I read something about cat hair. So, and then some bad stuff happened. I wasn't able to write for a while. So I'm going to talk. If I have time, I'll read a couple more. Oddly enough, it was my poetic pen. This is called Joseph. My poetic pen was silenced when I smelled the rotting corpse of my roommate. No hot shower could wash away the horror that he'd been lying dead down the hall from me, next to that hot shower, for weeks. Not out, relapsing on heroin. After the police and paramedics descended on my house and traumatized my other roommate forever for suspecting him of foul play, rather than the grievous sin of not answering his cell phone when the powers that failed tried to tell him to leave because the police were coming. Was it my fault? Not for the death, but not for not doing something other than be relieved at the silence from his noise and quirks and endlessly bad jazz guitar. I had called the powers that failed to say that I smelled the smell of tragedy, of my former friend rotting on his institutional mattress. And when they called me back to say that he was dead and had been removed, the mystery of his weeks of absence was solved. And though I wept bitterly and assumed the task of clearing his things from the kitchen, which took weeks, I reflected. Most of us do not die surrounded by family and loved ones, and it is no tragedy to die in your own room peacefully. So why be horrified at a brief encounter with the smell of a rotting corpse while taking a shower? Yet he lay there for 2 weeks with no one looking, and it will likely be my fate too. And though my pen has been silenced for these 2 years, I comfort myself that I speak honestly of his quirks and gorgeous smile. And the next one is the last poem I wrote before that happened. It's called Fatal Attraction, but in honor of the theme, I'll call it Felt Attraction.
Ah, thank you so much.
I'm not going to be ignored, she said, while turning around on the wheel of sadness, but alluding to our fears of a crazed Glenn Close and a shocked audience on the spoke of fear on the other side of the emotional wheel. Certainly no submissively contrite Michael Douglas, despite his rising fear and declining erection. Increasingly a sense of amused, thrilled fulfillment on another spoke of the turning wheel. The crazed bitch will get hers in the end when the corpse lies in the bathtub, even though the bunny still boils forever on the stove of horrified imagination. Watery emotions flowing from spoke to spoke. A sink turned on during sex, washing hands as adultery begins. A shower to wash away adulterous guilt and prepare for a stacked sin. A bubbly crock pot of cruelty and a baptism of bloody, vengeful death. As a switch goes from light to dark to light to dark, and a white dress becomes increasingly blood-stained with lust. Not ever ignored, burned in forever.
Wow.
And this is what I wrote yesterday. My therapist is encouraging me to write about the bad things that happened to me. And I have to be funny about it. I have a broken butthole. Sodomized by Satanists, scarred by anal warts. Hardly a one-way street. You can call it what you like. A shit shoot, a fudge-packed fun box, a fuckhole. You can even call it an anus if you like. Or you can call me an asshole. But I won't listen. I'm too busy being an anal cancer survivor with my broken butthole.
Kim Purcell, I want to make sure I said that right. Thank you. All right, and come on back. All right, so Ed, my cue departed.
His footprints are right here.
Huh?
His footprints are right here.
Thank you. This brings us to our mini feature. Oh no, this brings us to Bill Mercer, then our mini feature.
No.
Bill Mercer, come on now, Bill. We haven't seen him in a million years. The gentle Bill Mercer, as he is
Gentle.
like to be called.
Gentle.
Or Gentile, I don't know.
Yeah, the Gentile.
I don't care.
The Gentile gentle. I mean, gentle Gentile, there we go.
Spit it out.
Yeah.
So a couple of days ago, we had Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah.
And I wanted to read a poem by John Trudell.
Yes.
And you get in touch with this one, so. Crazy horse, we hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. We are the land. How do we sell our mother? How do we sell the stars? How do we sell the air? Crazy horse, we hear what you say. Too many people standing their ground, standing the wrong ground. Predators face prepossessor race, possession, a war that doesn't end. Children of God feed on children of earth. These days, people don't care for people. These days, material field, material harvest, decorations on chains that bind, mirror smoke, the people lose their mind. Crazy horse, We hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. We are the land. Today is now and then. Dream smokes touch the clouds. On a day when death didn't die, real world time. Tricks, shadows lie. Red, white, perfection. Predator tried tribalizing us, but the tribe will not go without return. Genetic light from the other side, a song from the heart, a heart to give. The wild days, the glory days, live. Crazy horse, we hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. We are the land. How do we sell our mother? How do we sell the stars? How do we sell the air? Crazy horse, we hear what you say. Crazy horse, we hear what you say. We are the seventh generation. We are the seventh generation.
Oh! Well, put the name of, let's jump again, put the name of the poem. Tommy Abacola who's coming up here with something special for us. Give him a nice round, and David's going to take care of the microphone, people. Cheer it up here, let's go. Where's Tommy, for crying out loud? Abacola.
Yeah.
Middle name is for crying out loud. Sorry. I'm stopping now.
Are you all calmed down now? Good, okay. So, this week is, as you know what it all is, right? Okay, so I've got a couple poems about things that happened this week. They took the men 13 at a time to represent Christ and his 12 apostles, put nooses around their necks, stood them so their feet barely touched the ground, taunted them, wrapped them in straw, then set them on fire. Sometimes they cut off a man's hands and hung them around his neck as a warning to others to obey their every command. They spared no one when they raided the towns. Not the children, not the women, not the elders. They cut the bodies into pieces, encouraged each other to desecrate the corpses. It became a game. Raped as they pleased. No woman was safe. When they first arrived, the native peoples greeted them on the shore with parrots and balls of cotton. They had no iron. Their spears were of wood. They lived a simple life. We could subjugate them with 50 men, said the leader of those in the 3 big wooden ships. And that's what they did to those they didn't slaughter. They branded them inferiors, made them slaves. The Padres forced a new religion on them, convert or die. One native culture after another devastated as the invaders from across the big ocean, speaking the strange tongue, spread from place to place. And you wonder why I'm an Italian against Columbus?
Oh, just say it.
Continuing along the same lines. Military planes in the skies of America again. Angels of death dazzling crowds in a land that's been at continuous war for almost 2 decades. A thrill show for boys and girls who will soon trade in video games for machine guns and trenches. the subliminal message of the warlords, the masters of war, those who make a career out of killing, planted in their young brains as the acrobatic planes roar across the heavens, dart up vertically, race in pairs or in formation, seem to defy gravity. A flock of birds heading south for the winter with their constant calls to each other glides through the sky with so much more grace and fluidity, an aerial ballet. It inspires poetry. These metal monsters, these blue devils invoke fear. The animals sense it. They cower. They howl. They hide. They know that these angels are not heavenly, not glorious. They're fallen.
Whoa.
And I will end with another poem on the same theme. They decided, oh, and this is just a little background, I don't know how much you know this. Yes, the Board of Supervisors declared it Indigenous Peoples' Day, but then turned around and said, oh, and it's also Italian Heritage Day. So it's not just Indigenous Peoples' Day. We forget that we have a really moderate city hall administration. So if you've been fooled into thinking we have progressives in City Hall, forget it. They decided that Indigenous people can't have an entire day to themselves. They can't have a day, a single day, one in 365, one spin of the old globe, all to themselves. Deals were made, pressure put to bear, as it usually is in City Hall. Native peoples now have to share a day, one single day, with Italians who've had the day for decades, because some explorer who happened to be from Genoa, which wasn't part of Italy, there was no Italy at the time, couldn't find his way to India. My people claimed that day to celebrate pride in a land where we were lynched in the South, where employers ran no Italian need apply notices, where a eugenics movement decided we had a lower brain capacity than Anglos, a criminal brain at that. But we can have another day. Vito Marcantonio or Angela Bambacci's birthday, the day that Sacco and Vanzetti were executed. We don't need this day. The one day, the one in 365 that politicians have finally granted to indigenous peoples after 500 years of stolen lands, smallpox-infected blankets, broken treaties, forced conversions, pipelines through reservations. They deserve more. They deserve 365 days. They deserve their land back. Not one half of one day of 365 that some politicians have decided is enough.
Wow.
And that's many minutes, I guess. I'm going to put in a shameless plug.
Wait a minute.
Sorry, I've been losing my voice all day. I don't know what's going on. I think it's allergies. But anyway, so my voice is a little bit weak. But I'm going to be performing Sunday night, if I can get my voice back, at Solo Sundays at Stageworks Theater on Valencia, 446 Valencia.
Tell them more about the show.
Yeah, the show's called The Old Brown Jacket. It's a 20-minute piece that basically follows my relationship with my father after I came out to my family on TV and then got kicked out of the house by my Italian immigrant father who couldn't deal with having a queer son, let alone a queer son who was doing drag. And then I started living in drag and I had all these adventures, and I won't tell you where it goes from there. But anyway, it's very funny and sad and dramatic, of course. Being Italian, of course, it's got lots of drama. Anyway, I'll pass this around. I hope you come and support me, and that's it.
I'll take him. Pass around.
Yeah.
Give him another round, please. Tommy Anacolamaker. All right. And now, Aston Martin, Chuck Healy, Gore Vidal,
Yeah.
MD. And now, since those, glad that those people are here, have more time for Greg Pond, Garrett Murphy, Judy Mon, Peter Robin, JJ Rush, and Rob again. Give a Greg Pond a round of applause. He comes out here, knocking the snot off those other individuals. The mighty Greg Pond, as we like to say. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry about that, Greg. You know me, I just try to do my best. No one ever listens.
I didn't actually, I didn't bring a poem I didn't bring a poem with the
the
magic
theme in
word.
mind.
Yeah.
But have you felt this piece that you're about to read?
But you know what? I changed one of the words in here to.
Like a felt. Like a felt. Like gefelte.
Yeah, I felt.
I gefelt. I gefelt.
All right.
Gefelte fit.
Yeah.
This one is called Finally Hearing Your Internet Voice. Packed a bag, about to catch a plane. Noticed a phone message had appeared after months of internet-only exchange. So wonderful to finally hear the way you talk and say my name. So sexy, warm, and clear. So sweet and inspiring, the voice that's been hiding under online texting and typing. Thinking how long I've been denied the opportunity to hear what you sound like. It's like finding a message in a bottle or getting a massage for my ears. The sincerity embedded in those few spoken words got me gliding on the wind and soaring like a bird. Felt so giddy and touched some silly syllable that meant so much by saying so little. Just before I started to board, I stopped to replay your message once more. Took a minute to listen to your verbal missive, then stuffed a bit of your timber in my carry-on to carry me over while I'm airborne. I'll be thinking of you while I'm southwest flying and floating for miles on the sound of you smiling. First Tuesday Blues. On the first Tuesday of any November in the not too glorious past, guard dogs and hoses protected polling places from ballots about to be cast by the wrong color faces. Undemocratically denied hard-earned civil rights. A slice of slavery winks its eye. These days, the first Tuesdays of every November are divided red and blue. And white usually ends up right, no matter who we choose, with minorities left to succumb to whatever majority rules. Guard dogs that used to chase and bite are now watchdogs assigned to protect our rights, while Uncle Sam holds the leash. A bald-headed eagle winks its eye. And one more short one, Freedom Trek. We get pushed 3 steps back for every 2 we step ahead. We hear our ancestors' chains scraped across ancient decks. We still feel the advance of the slave master's hands and the noose around our necks. We've seen our souls bought and sold on the manumission to liberty trek. We've been walking north since before we were born, but we ain't got to freedom yet.
Very fun. All right, Garrett Murphy, then Dudermont, Peter, JJ, and then Rob.
Not here.
Oh, he left? Yeah. All right. All right, so Garrett Murphy's coming out. Give him a nice warm welcome, please. Thank you, David, again. Actually, your name is not David again, but you know what I mean. Did Peter also go, the guy that was with?
Yeah.
Okay. So JJ, you're going to be next.
A needling. Exalted is the needle when it pierces the lobe, and occasional other parts that great ornaments do mount. Exalted is the needle through which colored inks do flow to create human canvases for one's own exhibit. And perhaps most loved is the original needle that assembles great attire and mends tears within such. But one needle that sends many insane swimming off is the one through which poultices and medications do flow. More reviled, one inquires, than the ones with bad substance. Three travesties and then many. From the whole of Africa they were snatched by raiders, random without regard to region or clan or family, shipped away far from connections to home or to culture, to be split further and further from legitimate names. Today most names are the same as those of the captors, and connections are to this day irrevocably lost through years of splittings and mixings and mix-ups. They had to make an all-new culture like a jigsaw puzzle with at least half of the pieces lost, stolen, or destroyed. In many ways, for oppressors, theirs are the ultimate result. Already on the land was another cultural group who nonetheless was also believed illegitimate. They were ravaged and savaged and wiped out by invaders, and as if that was not more than enough, their families were also deliberately torn asunder, carted off to good Christian white families to learn a real culture in place of their own. Wiping out the connections through intermingle or starvation took an act of Congress to put a stop to that, though the damage will and has lasted much longer. Now the notorious mentally truant delinquents, known as Little Jeffrey Sessions or Little Johnny Kelly, dared to deliberately pull migrant children from their parents under the usual tactic of a tough deterrent. T-Rex tactic or tyrant decree are the more apt monikers for that diabolical plot. The goal is, of course, a reprise of the usual chaotic desire of making America lily white. The adage, what does not kill you makes you stronger, conveniently neglects to add a postscript and ages you. Which, of course, is another desire of the would-be enforcers, namely the figurative and literal elimination of culture. The Sinking Tower of rhymes with Crisco. Like present-day imitators of Yertle the Turtles, the city parents and developers did at this time, all they really had to do was to simply build a new transit center, but of course, who do we think we are? Anyone can build a simple transit center, but we're S&F, the city that really knows how. There's nothing going higher than we. We'll build us a transit center capped by a building that really helped to build us up to the stars. So they built up and built up and built up some more, and behold, that tower was built, a marvel of the ages. But what's that odd sound, that sinking sound, not quite the burping sound of a Mac, but equally ominous? It gasps, roars out, and it's plainly clear that that tower has begun to sink like poor Alice into the earth. Those developers might have dared to rise to the stars, but it appears they may really sink to the fallen stars. They really should have known than to build up on sand, soft enough to go through hourglasses, sole source of hubris as city leaders and builders. But you can never keep a big utopia down for long. Hey, look on the bright side. At least we done Italy a few better. They just have a leaning tower of Pisa, but we have, ladies and gentlemen, the sinking tower of, well, you know.
All right, JJ, and then Rob will close us out. We take out all these prizes. Give JJ a round. He hasn't been here in a minute. A really amusing kind of guy.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, JJ.
What a pleasure to be here this evening. And the guy who spoke about his Italian heritage, and you guys that spoke about your Irish heritage, and you all who spoke about your Swedish inheritance. I finally came to a solution on this. we are all Africans with white faces, okay?
Oh, yeah.
I thought we should get down to that right away, okay? And I want to put some little mirth into the overall activity that's taking place this evening. And I'm going to start it off with a little November dancing. Have you noticed the nation is going through one of the greatest election seasons of all times? Observe the large number of office holders running for the exits before the polls even open. Now, the administration's latest Circus Act has caused such a brouhaha amongst its trainers, they're begging the public for help to complete their high wire acts. Of late, some of the animal trainers have actually lost their shirts cleaning the elephant cage, then inattentively couldn't get out the way when the elephant backed up unexpectedly. The people around Mr. Big are not all bad people. When I earned $7,000 one year, the IRS audited me and took back what they wanted. Many of the president's confidants probably just haven't got a subpoena letter yet. Thank you. It just so happened that I'm going on a family reunion now. I'm going to be returning home, okay? And I thought about when I was a child and in my grammar school, we had what you call a dummy room, you know. But you know what? I never took the time to go and look into the dummy room because I figured it might be catchy, okay? Anyway, the next part of this is this little song to introduce you to my main item. I'm going to leave, oh, Texas now. They got no use for the longhorn cow. I'm gonna take my horse and I'll take my room. I'm going back on my way to New Mexico. Thank you. Now, going home. You know, Don Quixote's return home was unpretentious at best. My own story had a pop, the weasel flavor to it. And as I crossed the desert on the way back, how I would execute the sound and fury. Well, yet telling the truth about it would prevent my having flashbacks and nightmares. For instance, between animals observed and people I encountered, to be frank, I've had it up to here. In turn, I've been joyful one day and despondent the next. Yet, in spite of a few broken heart episodes, I'm still a happy camper with an open door policy. This happens to be a good day, and I'm proud to say I'm in no mood to rush home for reasons I thought you'd approve. The late night party reports coming from the next town I find downright naughty and attractive. They balled the jack good enough to make you weep, I hear. Whatever that is, I'm ready for it. I should flee in. And need I repeat the obvious? I'm very sensitive to female whims and persuasion. Knowing the proper way to treat men folks gets around. Those women have sterling reputations to prove it. And if you haven't heard, I'm used to living a cosmopolitan lifestyle. And as you might expect, going home will have to wait a little while longer. I'm looking forward to lawn parties and sorries. They're listed on my horizon and agenda. I didn't say it earlier, but I miss terribly the crowd at Pasco's in Atlanta. Snobbish or not, my mind is on ordering an Italian tortilla, a sorbet ice cream, and of course, my all-time favorite, a margarita with a dash of salt on the side, just enough fluff to rough me up. This homecoming will be anything but boring, as you can see. Matter of fact, in one of the towns up ahead, an appointed date is waiting for me, and is sure to hold me up a spell. But you never can tell what extra ruckus I can work up before getting there. This going back business set me to thinking about the giant mistakes I made when I was just a kid. It's a good thing God's forgiven me for every transgression I have made according to Scripture. With that off my chest, I see nothing but smooth sailing ahead. Now, the good weather deserves good news, such as how women in the next town spend leisure time when alone. I'm told they sit at the beach all day, posing in bikini swimsuits, waiting for the right man to come along. That's all I've thought about since making this move to the river. I'm sure to make it back before the cows come home. Also, a little extra fun won't be holding me up any too much. I'll be singing and blinging pretty much like this until I get there. Thank you.
Oh, give it up for him, please. He's our preacher closer, super duper bulldozer, opening the second show, closing the second show, as we like to call it.
Nicole, do you wanna?
You want it?
No.
You want it?
You
Just wondering if you want to get on the mic, which I already asked.
Hi guys, thank you.
All right, just want to make sure. Because otherwise, we wouldn't ask, and we'd assume, and that would be not, Let me focus on this individual of a interesting nature.
I thought you wanted me to sing, so I was confused.
I was confused too, but I know he didn't want me to sing.
All right. This is going to feel sad, but it's not really. I was taken by the realization that I don't know of any songs that have ever been written for the purpose of being sung when you're about to die, when you're on your deathbed, your last little moment in life. So I'm going to try and fill that need. This is called The Dying Song, and I think that every life should end with a kazoo solo by somebody who does not know that they are not Charlie Parker.
Great job.
I took a stroll in this human wasteland. I lost my soul in this human wasteland. I passed the burning wrecks of a human wasteland. I dreamed of sex in a human wasteland. I cried for kindness in this human wasteland. There's only blindness in this human wasteland, swallowed and eaten by this human wasteland, stripped and beaten by this human wasteland. And so goodbye to this human wasteland. It's time to die in this human wasteland. Fuck off, I'm done.
Killed me. And we're still all alive.
Well, you know, you can do my, when I'm ever in that situation, you can do the kazoo solo.
I'll strum for you, but you gotta do the kazoo.
Okay, all right. Well, you've done it again, or I have, or we have, or they have, or whomever. And my co-pilot has been shuffling these cards in an obsessive-compulsive manner. And I've decided to add to that. And we're going to take care of these wonderful prizes. There's so many of them here. You have Woman by Natalie Angier. It's an intimate geography.
Read the quote on the back by Gloria Steinem.
Okay, thank you for reminding me about that.
The bold one, the one-liner there.
Oh, anyone living in or near a female body should read this book. Okay, that's the short part of the quote that you told me. New Fowls, a book 2, Water Rights, a poem by David Applebaum. I know this guy, so it might be a very good thing. Could be good. Garage Elegies by Stephen Kessler, the great philosopher. Doesn't include Morgan Freeman though. Scales to Scalpels, doctors who practice the healing arts of music and medicine. Very nice. The most recent issue of the Poetry Review and Poetry News and all sorts of other things in here. This was given to us by Ed Mycute. God, what's this David voice coming in? And then Giving Voice, Laborfest Writers Anthology 2005 to 2017. I know there's good stuff in here. And also Sonnets for an Analyst by Gladys Schmidt. A Carnegie Mellon Classic Contemporary, just so you know. And then if those don't float your boat, there's 4 of these big book sale tickets. And it's the book sale by the, the Friends of the Public Library. And it's Tuesday, October 30th, 4 to 8 p.m. And I think it says here also public hours, October 31st through November 4th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I guess there's member preview and sale. So this is the one to go to. You get it, you get this, you go in early, you get the books before the crowds descend upon it. And then there's 4 of those, and then there's, of course, the keynote, the mini feature, the last word, the co-pilot, and choosing the theme. Is that it? I think that's it. All right, may I have a drum roll, please? We haven't done that in a million years. I'll do the numbers. Huh? Rob?
Keynote. 15 minutes.
Huh?
Keynote.
Oh, Jesus. No, he said keynote.
Fuck off.
Thank you. Keynote. Rob. All right. So then we have, who is 18?
Greg Pond.
Greg Pond. Greg Pond, the wonderful, the well-known, the highly regarded, the person who likes ice cream possibly more than I do. Books. No, that's a ticket.
Oh, I've got that.
Oh, you have that. Okay, well, that's all. Thank you again. Okay. All right, and we have number 20. Rob, you said last word, right?
No.